It is the FA Cup third round, a big one at Old Trafford today. TFC, yes, lots of news there as well. And rumours. Yeah, we love Fleetwood Mac. It's room 442. I'm James Sharman. As I mentioned, a big game at Old Trafford today in the FA Cup third round. Goodbye, Everton. Your malaise continues. Manchester United advance 3-1. Marcus Rashford with a goal and an assist. And make that 7 straight wins now. 7 straight wins for Manchester United. They are back playing some really good football these days. As I welcome in Albert Vatanian, Michael Singh. It's time we spoke a little bit about Marcus Rashford. I think, Mikey. He's been under the magnifying glass for a long time. He was really poor, off colour for over a year, it seemed. But right now, as we speak today, he's playing some of the best football of his career. He's dominating games, and today against Everton, he's bossing it.
Yeah, he's taken that sort of next step in his career where, we saw flashes and moments of performances like today out of Marcus Rashford, but now we're seeing it on a weekly basis. The way he's able to drive at defenders and create opportunities on his own, it's almost relentless. And I remember there was a period of watching Marcus Rashford where it looked like he was really disengaged and he wasn't tracking back, wasn't making the right runs, and just his energy level wasn't there. But today and throughout the course really of, honestly, this whole season, Marcus Rashford's been really good. But you're seeing him track back. You're seeing him willing to run at defenders. You're seeing him just move around a little bit more freely on the pitch, like he really wants to be there, and he really feels confident in himself to really cement his place as one of the best attackers in the world, and he's doing so right now on a consistent basis. It's really great to see.
Yeah, his work ethic has always been there, right? It's now when he's on the ball, he's so commanding, he's so strong, drives into the box, can beat defenders, and I think what really showed his confidence was that penalty against Pickford. The walk up and then the finish. Just like pure confidence. He didn't really celebrate it either. It's a different side of Marcus Rashford. I think, the past couple of seasons, he had a lot going on off the field with his charity work and dealing with government issues. There's a lot going on there, and I think that could take away from what you do on the pitch. Now, I don't think that's the case as much anymore.
He had the Prime Minister of the UK on his speed dial now.
There you go.
It was a few Prime Ministers ago now, I think. I'm sure he still does. He's scored in 7 straight home games now as well. And is it a coincidence that since, a certain Portuguese legend leaves, this guy steps up and looks even better? Albert?
Come on, Sean.
No?
You can't.
I'm
not doing
there's no
that.
correlation there at all?
No,
You can't talk about Ronaldo. Around Ronaldo.
Rashford's been fantastic. United have been great. And I don't want to bring them down, but have to consider some of the competition they've been playing lately, right? Forest, Wolves, Bournemouth, and now Everton. Let's see what happens when they play some of the teams at the top of the table.
That's what this month coming up is going to be. A lot of really
I
important
love the football that
fixtures.
they're playing, by the way. It is beautiful football.
But even today, like I was telling you, I didn't think they were playing that great today. But yet they found a way to battle out a victory and get a W in a game. Again, they didn't play that well, which is a testament to what really good teams do.
Yeah, it does seem that Erik ten Hag's got this team, playing the way they should be playing. We were sure, is he going to be the right guy? There's so many names being mentioned there before, but he's got them playing well now, and we'll see. As mentioned, 7 straight wins. It's brilliant. So it's the FA Cup weekend. Let's bring us to fast money football. We'll pick a couple of games, some bets that you suggest we should put money on. Albert, let's start with you. Who you got this weekend?
I'm going to go Brentford to beat West Ham. Brentford already beat West Ham. They've been in phenomenal form. I was looking at them this season. They've beaten Liverpool. They've beaten Manchester City. No Ivan Toney, which is a big miss, but they showed that they can cope without him. Brian Mbeumo's another guy, like anytime goal scorer, definitely worth a sprinkle. And I just don't like the look of West Ham at the moment. I have a feeling Moyes might sit some of their starters based on a couple of matches coming up in the Premier League. So I'm going Brentford straight up on the money line.
All right, Mikey?
Yeah, I'm targeting in, and honestly, I'm not really just for the bet, just for the sake of just mentioning this. It could be a historic moment for Canadian soccer. We're talking about Watford traveling to Reading and taking on Reading, of course. Ismail Kone set to make his potential debut there for Watford. He's taking on Junior Hoylett's Reading. What a story alone that is. But if you want to find some value, look at the game in particular. Take a look at Watford on the money line there. They are playing some their form hasn't been great, but in the table, they're fourth in the table right now, whereas Reading's dropped down to about 13th. I know winning away from home is never easy, but this Watford team against Reading, I think they size up pretty well. So Watford, who actually come in as the dogs, that could be good value.
I love these non-Prem matches, by the way. Well done. I'm going to go to the Prem against the Championship. Bournemouth to beat Burnley. It's at plus 147. Anytime you get plus money for a Premier League team to beat a Championship team, I like that. Although I know Burnley's playing really well right now. They're first place. They've lost just 3 games all year under Vincent Kompany, right? Who's apparently a good manager, as well as a great centre-back. So that one's interesting to me. Bournemouth have been great all year, surprising us all. Had a tough time over Christmas with flu going through that team, but this team's playing some pretty good football. But the FA Cup's great, eh? I know every January we have all the games through Christmas and the New Year's, and then the first weekend it's like, the FA Cup, but then it happens, like, oh yeah, it's still a great tournament. You guys have been Premier League fans for a while now, but you always mention it, younger than me, but does the FA Cup hold any significance in your lives like it does for me? I remember when it was great, you see.
Yeah, there's the Carabao Cup that's also coming up, and honestly, the early games, not really.
Right.
Early games, not really. I like the semifinals when it gets down to stronger teams against stronger teams. But
I love FA Cup knockout football. A bit more than the Carabao Cup, definitely in my eyes. I mean, when you look at it, even tonight, I was happy to see Everton and United start their number 1 11s under the lights at Old Trafford. You can't beat it.
Yeah, big match feel. Big tournament. It's fantastic. Some really sad news today as the great Gianluca Vialli passed away after losing his battle with pancreatic cancer. The Italian legend who starred for Juventus, Sampdoria and Chelsea was 58 years old. With teams back in training this week ahead of the new MLS season, let's take a 60-second look at the highs and lows of last year's Major League Soccer campaign. 2 Galactico signings, 1 supporter shield, and victory in what many have called the greatest MLS Cup final of all time. Not a bad first season in charge for LAFC's Steve Cherundolo. Philadelphia Union missed out in that final, but with 72 goals scored and only 26 conceded, Jim Curtin's side produced one of the best regular seasons in league history. FC Cincinnati were the league's most improved side, going from 3 bottom place finishes in a row to 5th in the Eastern Conference and the first ever playoff qualification. The New England Revolution fell flat after a stellar 2021 season. Bruce Arena's team missed out on the playoffs and suffered a shock quarterfinal exit from the Champions League. Despite acquiring Lorenzo Insigne, TFC continued to flounder in the post-Greg Vanny era. The club suffered 5 straight defeats en route to a second from bottom finish. And finally, there's bad, and then there's DC United. Wayne Rooney's side made everyone else look good with a minus 35 goal differential and more losses than any other team in the league. All right, let's get now to the Toronto FC story. There was media availability today, and Mikey Singh was there to talk all things Toronto FC. Okay, so they're leaving for California on Sunday or Monday. There's still several holes to fill with this team. What's the latest?
Yeah, so speaking to Bob Bradley today, he addressed sort of where they are at this point in the year. From a roster standpoint, obviously, as you mentioned, still a lot of holes to fill on the squad. And primarily, you're talking about a starting goalkeeper. You're talking about a starting center back. After the departure of Mimo Crescito, you're now talking about a starting left back. And then as well, they'd like to add some depth up front behind Ayo Akinola and Jesus Jimenez. So what I can tell you, just based on what Bob Bradley was saying, is they're in conversations with particular targets about filling each one of those voids that I just mentioned. Now, you can look at their depth, and you could actually argue that there's more than just those 4 needs for them to go out and address. But I feel like those sort of signings are honestly imminent because they're about to head to preseason. The start of the season's about a month and a half away, and TFC feels confident that they can get sort of their heavy lifting now done before the season begins. February 25th, I believe it is.
Is Jimenez staying? Because there's much conjecture last season about him leaving and then replacing him up front with someone.
Yeah, just speaking to Bob again today, it sounds like there might have been a little bit of a change of heart. Maybe they didn't find the right offer that they wanted for Jesus Jimenez. Maybe they're hoping that a whole preseason and off season rejuvenates him, and he gets back to being the player that he was through the first half of the season as opposed to the latter half. But yeah, you're right. They made a big investment in the guy. He didn't live up to expectations, and they need more value up front. So he might still be moving on, but for sure they're going to go out and add a different type of striker that if Jesus or if Ayo aren't going, then they can turn to that striker and offer something different.
Now, they did sign Matt Hedges, right? And obviously, preventing goals is probably the biggest issue for this team. Certainly, that's awful last year. In goal, as you mentioned there, they need a starting goalkeeper. Sean Johnson's name's still out there. A lot of rumours across social media right now about a deal being, if not close, at least being discussed.
Yeah.
What's the latest there?
Yeah, so Tom Bogert came out today and he did report that Sean Johnson is going to be making a trip to Toronto. I can confirm that he will be making a trip to Toronto, which is actually an interesting turn of events because what I can tell people is that TFC did make an approach towards Sean Johnson earlier this offseason, and Sean Johnson actually turned their offer down. And the reason being is it sounded like he was going to go back to New York City FC. But now where things sort of stand is it seems like New York City FC are turning the page on this old core, which included a guy like Sean Johnson, and maybe he didn't get the offer that he was expecting out of NYCFC and is now circled back to Toronto FC. So it seems like it's coming down to sort of those two clubs, TFC or NYCFC, and TFC feel confident that they can potentially strike a deal here.
And that's a huge signing for TFC, potentially one of the best goalkeepers
Yeah.
in MLS. For you, what do you think for Toronto FC is the order of importance in terms of which positions need to be filled first? Obviously, goalkeeper is huge, but in front of that, you'd have to think maybe another defender, right?
Yeah, I'm smiling because there's a lot of positions looking at
every
their
position,
their depth
essentially,
chart.
right?
They need starters, right? It's not even just about a single position. It's about players that can step into the lineup
Right.
today and ensure that they're capitalizing on this window they've now created with Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi. They do need a starting center back, right, to pair next to Matt Hedges. They took some swings on some marquee center back free agents this offseason. It didn't work out quite yet. And we know that they're going to be addressing that need heading into this start of training camp. And as well, you don't have a left back on your roster in general, right? You need to go out and
Because he
need to
retired.
address that.
Right, and then he signed with Genoa.
Yeah, retired and then
A bit weird
and
that one,
signed.
wasn't it?
Yeah, weird, not weird.
On that
yeah.
note, okay, the Italian players, right? Bernardeschi, Crescido, no longer, of course, but
Yeah.
Insigne, we know how good they are, but there's been an undercurrent of rumor about these two not getting on last year, being a real issue in the room. I mean, you've heard the same. What are you hearing entering camp?
Yeah, so you're right. There was a little bit of a tension between those two players towards the end of last season. I'm hearing they've rekindled and they're trying to put all that behind them and trying to go and turn the page and do this together.
It's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah, I mean,
It's crucial.
has to
right?
be, right?
And
They're,
if there was some sort of falling out during last season, look how good they were. Imagine if they come together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, good. The two of the players individually very good, but the team did fall apart as well down the stretch. I mean, you do wonder at what level was that dislike and how it affected the rest of the team, because it does happen.
It wasn't just them, though, right? I mean, 66 goals conceded. That can't happen. You know, if you get a Sean Johnson, and that hopefully cuts that in half, but I mean, the rest of the team needs to step up.
yeah, Matt Hedges also plays a really important role in
Yeah.
that, but you're right too. Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi, a lot of the TFC's success is lying on the shoulders of these two Italian stars, and you can even look towards their third DP. They've invested so much into these two players that they don't have the budget to go out and make a splash with their third DP signing. They're probably going to have to get creative and sign a young DP, which would allow them to now invest in other places of the roster. I think that's what they're sort of leaning towards right now. Obviously, things can change in just the flick of a finger, but it sounds like that's the direction they have to head just based on how much they've invested in the roster.
Never a dull moment at TFC, is there? Let's get a little bit silly now. FIFA 23 have updated their player ratings for all players, but we're going to focus on the MLS players. Who are the highest rated players in MLS? Number 1, Lorenzo Insigne, 83. The best player in MLS according to EA Sports and FIFA 23. Followed by Giorgio Chiellini. There's Carlos Vela. Gareth Bale at 4. Carlos Yule tied for 5th. What are you thinking right now, Mike? I mean, is Insigne better than Vela? Is Chiellini just banking on previous successes?
I'll give love to Insigne because I do believe he is the most talented player in Major League Soccer. But in order to get the best out of him, you do need to surround him with other talented players. So maybe next season he may not be the best player based on total stats, but I do believe he is the most talented player. The Chiellini one is just baffling.
No, why is Chiellini
Well,
have
this
a
is
higher
maybe
rating
5,
than
6,
Carlos
10
Vela?
years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get it.
I mean, but a centre back.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, you're a centre back. You should
Yeah.
be appreciating
No,
this.
but come on, Carlos Vela, much better. Even Gareth Bale.
Well, I'm not
Because
sure about Bale.
when we talk about ratings, like if you're playing
Well-
FIFA Ultimate Team, I haven't played in a while. Me and Mike have been going back and forth between us who's going to beat each other
not a
in FIFA
debate.
23. It's probably
Not a
going to be
debate.
me.
Mikey's ranked in Canada, though.
No, that's NHL.
NHL.
Oh,
Yeah,
NHL.
FIFA, he's garbage.
Same thing.
But if I'm making a FIFA Ultimate Team, I'm not looking at Giorgio Chiellini. That's not happening.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think it's some disrespect also to a guy like Hani Mukhtar, last year's reigning MVP, right? He was the best player on a team in Nashville that honestly didn't surround him with incredible pieces, and he was hands down the best player in Major League Soccer last year. So the fact that he's not in the top 5 based on what he
You
accomplished,
guys do know it's a video game, right?
No,
Not real.
Getting
it's
real
important.
heated here.
It's important to these players, by the way.
Oh, well, I know it is.
they
Yeah.
watch it. They
Yeah.
do watch it. I know guys who every year they check their own ratings. I would too. If that was in the game, are you kidding me?
What would your rating be?
17.
Honestly, I'd have pace. My pace would be in the 90s.
Mikey.
For
What would be
sure.
your strongest point, Albert? What was your highest rating?
I
What
got
part
pretty
of
good
your game?
touch, as I showed Mikey yesterday.
Soft feet?
Soft feet? I'd be like maybe like a 60 or something.
What's your like player
You'll
comparison?
be a 60
My
on
player?
on this current.
Yeah.
60, yeah,
Sixty.
right.
Yeah, I would be. I'm just being honest.
Well-
Player comparison?
Yeah.
In my prime, maybe like Virgil van Dijk. Now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Maybe John O'Shea at Sunderland.
You're so modest. In my prime, Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah.
I know. What
Not
about you,
even
Mikey?
close.
What, Leo Messi?
Yeah, something like that. No, I was good, guys. Back in the day, I was good.
Here we go.
I
Did
see
you wear
it-
black boots?
I see a little Junior Hoyland.
There's
in
no
me.
way
I was
you wore
always
black
color.
boots.
Did you wear
I was
black
always
boots?
color.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I was
Of course
trashy
Sharp's
color.
black
Yeah.
boots.
Oh, I'm black
Till
boots all
today.
the way. Socks down, halfway down my calf.
Oh.
Shirt untucked, just a mess.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So what would your rating be?
Oh, man. Dean Windass.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. Just Google him.
Okay, Dean
All right.
Windass.
Dean
Good for a
Windass.
2-foot tackle.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Over the ball,
sure.
big character.
2-foot tackle
Good
and a full
teammate in the
hammy.
room. Great in the room, yeah. Injury prone.
Right in the room.
Yeah, injury prone.
All right, we're out of time for this block. When we come back, though, we'll go into our crystal ball, look ahead to what's happening over the weekend and what are the headlines on Monday. Welcome back to room 442. Now we'll stare into our crystal balls and predict the headlines come Monday morning. Lots going on this weekend in the FA Cup, as mentioned before, but across the European football world. Albert, let's start with you. Stare into your crystal ball. What are you seeing?
Hammer blow. West Ham sack Moyes. I've been going back and forth on this one because it's very difficult. It's hard to imagine West Ham at the moment without David Moyes, but they've been so bad. Such a poor run of form. 1 point in their last 6, and they just lost at home to Brentford before their draw with Leeds. They lost at home to Leicester City. They're not scoring many goals. And they're falling further and further down the table. They're essentially in a relegation scrap. This weekend, they have Brentford, which I do not expect them to win there, followed up with a trip against Wolves and Everton.
Massive.
Essentially 6-pointers, right? It's hard to see David Moyes not be there, but if there's a time to sack him and get prepared for a potential push to get out of this position that they're in, I think it's now.
But they're in the Conference League still. Don't forget.
But
And they're doing really
what does that matter if you're battling to stay up in the league that you're in,
Trophy.
right?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
What's more
But-
important? Are you just messing with me right now?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Well, listen, but Conference League, though, for teams like West Ham, though, is a big deal because you can get a trophy.
Yeah.
A team that's never going to win the Premier League.
But it's also a bigger deal if you're mid-table or potentially fighting for a European
Yes.
spot in the Premier
Yes.
League, which they're not in that
But
position.
who do you replace him with if you lose Moyes? I mean,
I think Sean Dyche, we were talking about this off air, someone like that. I'm not sure who's available at the moment.
DVG, guys. I keep hammering this.
No, you want someone with some Premier League experience. Listen, there's a chance they can be in a relegation scrap to the end of the season. I remember last season we were talking about Everton. This team can't go down. No way. And look what happened. right? And then the same
they didn't
position
go
this
down.
year.
They
They
didn't
didn't
go
go down.
down.
Came
Yeah.
pretty close.
No, that bottom of the table is insane.
It's
to
crazy.
me,
It's
right?
crazy.
With
I know.
Everton, Wolves, and West Ham's in the mix.
Look
too.
at West Ham last season. They finished in a European position. So I look at the team. I'm like, did they overachieve? Is that what happened?
Probably, yeah.
Right.
And they spent money this offseason as well. But
Like,
got
are they good enough to finish in a European spot, or are they good enough just to finish at the bottom table or somewhere in
They're a
between?
strange one, aren't they?
This
right?
is always West Ham, right?
Yeah, you don't
They're
know what the
always
hell
in
they
that
are.
middle.
I think it's time for a change.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mikey?
Yeah, for me, speaking of money, I'm saying that this is finally going to be the weekend that Enzo Fernandez gets over the line. So my headline is Chelsea make Enzo Fernandez the most expensive Premier League signing ever. He's not playing for Benfica today. He's actually out of the roster. So he's kind of forcing his hand here. Clearly, we know what the player wants. It's going to come down between negotiations and the club. Benfica's pretty adamant that they want 120 million euros for Enzo Fernandez, which to me is just an insane, absurdly
But that's his
amount.
release
but
clause, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
that's
so
what
you
it
have
is.
to kind of do that if you want him.
The
And
signing
why would
makes no
Benfica?
sense.
I mean, listen, they bought him for what, 10 mil or whatever it was 6 months ago,
Yep.
and you can get 120 now. You got to do it.
You got to do it. This signing makes no sense for Chelsea, though, I feel, at the moment, right
Well,
now.
Jorginho's leaving though, probably, right? End of his
Yeah.
contract. Kante had a contract as well. It's more about the future, I think.
Right.
But let's be honest, for Chelsea right now, it could be about the present as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because they're not winning very many games right now. But I mean, that's a lot of money for a really good young player. But he was the golden boy at the World Cup. So it's all about potential.
You got
And
that
midfielders cost
inflation,
money.
right? You get the golden boy, your price goes up
Yeah, no
another
kidding.
30, 40 million.
Yep.
What do you got, Sharms?
I have Hey Jude. The bell tolls for Bellingham, right? This is about to get real next week, right? So Jude Bellingham's back at training at Dortmund this week, last couple of days. The Bundesliga season starts January 22nd. We're getting closer. The rumor mill is going to go crazy. Real Madrid is sniffing around. Liverpool, there'll be other suitors. If Enzo gets the record for the transfer, it won't last for long because when Bellingham moves, it's going to be for even more than that, I think. So get ready for a really fun week of nonsensical rumors, you know. Oh, who knows? West Ham's going to get him and sell Declan Rice. There'll be all sorts of nonsense there right now. But I'm looking forward to seeing Jude Bellingham come to England. I know Real Madrid's sniffing, and it's hard to say no to Real Madrid. But if from a brand standpoint,
Premier
Premier League.
You think he moves in January?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big
If
move.
they're prepared to pay more money in January,
Right, yeah.
in the summer, then yeah. But for Dortmund's perspective, why would you?
Yeah,
Liverpool?
I think it's
Liverpool would be the
summer.
Premier League team?
Hmm?
You think Liverpool would be the Premier League team?
Premier League team at this point sounds that way.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Liverpool or Man City, right? It's always going to be like
he would
that.
fit so well at City, wouldn't he?
He'd
He's a
look
big price
really
to pay,
good
though.
United too. He
Midfield
would look
striker.
really.
he's
Imagine
not
him
going
next
to
to
United.
Casemiro.
He's not
Come
going to
on.
United.
It could be one of those deals where it's announced that he's going to be signing in the summer.
Right.
He's going to finish the season at Dortmund.
Yeah.
That could be what happens here.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Jude Bellingham, what a great player he is, and showed it at the World Cup, of course. But good young midfielders, and Declan Rice sits there waiting for an offer at some point. I think he'll be the next big player to move
I think so.
in the summertime for sure.
One of those players that just constantly. When is he gonna move?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's time. It's time. Poor old West Ham getting hammered today. Room 442. Luckily, the show's finished, Hammers fans. Don't worry. We're back though on Monday. Enjoy the games. It's Room 442. Cheers for watching.